him to drink, and we haven't even started yet.
Oh, no, they're not here yet.
Oh my gosh. Hey guys. Grizzlies are here. We do not have rum or alcohol, but we do have Pepsi.
We have old rum. So I need to replace.
Everyone go to Anthony's house to share in the Johnny Walker. I don't know if that means that I'm so bad at streaming he has to be drunk to enjoy it, but I'm going to roll with it. Oh, man. I think we're on time.
Oh, Arcanes.
Hey, Arcanes. Do you have to get drunk to enjoy it? No. It's so nice of you to show up. Hey, it's 10:15 on my watch, buddy. Sicko. Weirdo.
California time.
Skydog man. All right. Let me share a link. Linkers to be shareders.
Linkers for the drinkers.
Get all these other freaks from SG on here. Is what we're gonna do. All right. I'm live and talking about the latest lesson. Lesson, gents. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple, man.
Simple, stupid.
All right. I just had a, everybody's having alcohol but us. I feel discriminated. My shirt is way too bright. Remind me not to wear this shirt and be under this. You got the head, you got the shirt. My whiskers glow on the end, look very shiny.
Right.
Man, if they're gonna be drinking during streams, they're gonna have to at least get some wine or rum.
I do have beer in the
I don't like the beer. You guys are crazy about this beer thing, right? I didn't try beer till I was 30. You're all brainwashed.
Yeah.
Even the good ones are crap. Just saying.
Crap is still crap. No matter how
brainwashed. You burned off your taste buds, and now you think you like it. Let me tell you, you don't. Rum's good though. I have no complaints with rum.
Don't say the same thing about rum.
All right. Oh man, it's fun. Hope you guys had a good week. We had a pretty crazy week. Quick prayer request for beer is gross. Good memories though. Bad memories be. All right. Quick though. Let's get this out of the way. My quick say prayers and stuff for my wife's family. My wife's grandpa died a couple hours ago. Yeah, we're still streaming. I'm not. It's making her laugh.
You're making me laugh like this.
Yes, distract her with more beer talk. I am white trader trash. I would trade beer stolen. Okay. Yeah, but you had a goal in mind with that beer. By the way, that was you weren't just drinking beer for beer's sake. You were trying to get some. So yeah, just getting that out of the way. It's all right. They weren't crazy close, but for the family, some prayers would be nice on you guys' part.
Some memories were good, but
yeah. But the show must go on. No, that's not the right word. But we actually were feeling like something was trying to distract from this stuff. So getting out there, got it out of the way.
Pray just for the rest of the family.
Yeah.
That's the big thing right there.
Yeah. He's just like the boomer's boomer, even though he was the generation before him. Literally selling the farm. Literally selling the farm, if you know what I mean.
He sold the farm.
Yeah.
He auctioned it.
This is why we're a bit more estranged, but still, we don't need to talk bad about the dead right now. There's plenty of other boomers who aren't dead yet who. That's a bad way to put it.
It's why you discuss it when they're still alive.
So they can complain about my generation to your face, but nonetheless, for the family and everything, and he did do some good work before the boomerisms took over. So anyway, stuff to get off your chest before you get into the stream. Speaking of death, though, do you guys want to read about a guy stabbing someone and the dude's so fat that like the fat covers the knife and like dirt and crap comes out of the wound? Like I'm overweight. I am not that fat. You can't stick a foot long blade inside me. It'd be like a foot and a half because you have the handle too. Like you can't do it. It wouldn't disappear.
Talk about fat. I'm gonna go eat a donut.
Yeah, you go eat that donut. But you need to put on like a foot of something. Like
I'm trying.
forget it. Like the size of blade that disappear inside her would be like astronomically
I don't even know
small.
where the kids went.
You kept them in your kidneys. It was very important.
I only have 2 kidneys, not full.
I mean, you didn't have them all at once. They weren't quadruplets last
No,
I
they
checked. All right.
Just year after year.
And we're going to share screen. Going to click on the right screen. Here we go, baby. Ha! Shared. I think. See if it's sharing right. We are shared. Excellent.
Since they're drinking
Drinking in front of the poor people.
low end, here's the poor people donuts.
We left our donut shop back in Missouri, unfortunately. We have not found a good replacement for it
Yeah,
yet.
nice Cambodian family ran that place.
It's true. And our chocolate factory, though amazing, tiramisu, cannolis, those are amazing. They don't have donuts. Funny enough.
Yeah, the donut place is like an hour somewhere. That way or that
Funny thing. I mean, we're talking. They have gelato. They have like an entire, probably 10 to 15 foot long glass
chocolate.
case of just endless truffles, chocolates, Turkish delight that actually tastes good. You know, not the crappy Turkish delight that you bought in the grocery store one day when, hey, this is the Chronicles of Narnia. This must taste great. And then tasted like, oh, it's like a squishy, horribly flavored Fig Newton. No, this is a tasty Fig Newton. They should do it right. Coffee roasted and churned there. They have the whole machine. Like you walk in and the owner's like stirring this massive thing. It's really entertaining. But no donuts. Everything else under the sun. Anyway, we should get into like stabbing a fat man, not talking about things that make you fat.
like butter.
Or, you know, things my wife eats and gets skinnier somehow. But it's bad because she's already
It's
too
because of
skinny.
the preservatives. I'm allergic to preservatives, so I just
Oh.
yes, I eat preservatives.
And it takes a bit of you with it. Is that the problem? My body attracts preservatives and poisons and stuff. Hers just bleh. Too much information. Oh, I must be too tired. I'm sharing too much personal life stuff. Okay, let's get into this, everybody. So,
I mean, this is personal for somebody. Go even 12.
yeah, for a guy who died thousands of years ago, I don't think he cares anymore.
Well,
Well, maybe
he probably
he does.
laughs about it.
I mean, maybe in heaven he does laugh about
maybe
it. He's like
maybe
sitting
he
there.
lost weight back.
He's sitting there talking to the other judges in heaven, like, "Hey, you remember I stabbed that guy so hard that his fat covered the blade?" Yes, Ehud, we know the story. We've only been...
Too bad I can't bring my blade here.
Yeah. Where was I? Okay. Ehud, the assassin judge. What a name, Ehud. Dear reader, I want you to picture a scenario in your head. A Christian man assassinates the president of the United States over abortion with a hidden 3D printed plastic gun he smuggles into a private meeting with the head of state.
Wow, you just got so much radar right there.
I'm good. I know. I'm on so many lists with that sentence.
Wait.
It's great.
It's like you went on their checklist.
Hey, look, I had to explain. I had to put Ehud's story into the modern world. And what better way to do it?
You had to mention California in there. Wow.
Yeah, it's great. He escapes due to negligence and ineptitude of the Secret Service. Fudge, though. I wrote that before that became a big thing. Sometimes God helps you. Secret Service, and then starts an insurrection in California, calling all true Californians to break free the shackles of their imperial overlords. How many modern Christians, or any denomination or church, would condemn the man and the movement with a vehemence that should be reserved for witchcraft and child sacrifice?
This is why they're drinking.
Yes, it's good stuff. Yet, this is the best way to describe the second judge recorded in the Book of Judges. And that, just take a moment to get on a soapbox there. I am so tired of the modern church jumping down the going absolutely crazy over certain things they deem sins, while toning down every other sin under the sun. Like, you try to mention that, hey, we don't like pedophiles, we want them to die for their sins, or no, maybe that's not the right way to put it. Pay for their crimes, yeah. And you'll instantly have this small army of churchy and weirdos coming in and saying, "Oh, but don't hate the sinner, hate the sin. You should be praying for them to repent and all that." And it's like, shut up. No, you can hate. If I hate the sin, for example, find someone you love and do something they hate. Are they going to just hate the thing, or get on your case for doing it? Case in point. Tickling my wife on the foot. I am blamed, for I am the perpetrator. This is not hard. Right? Not hard. I freely chose to tickle my wife's foot on stream. I think I've proven my point here, right? It's yes, people can repent, but they also committed those sins. To ignore that is to ignore reality. And it's only through the immense sacrifice on the cross that any of our sins can be covered and dealt with. And pedophiles tend to not be the repenting type.
They really don't care.
Yeah, it's not, it's worse than that. They tend to create a scenario where in their heads, they're the good guys. Everybody else is just bigots, right? That aside, the point I'm trying to make, right? How fast do they kick like people deemed to be racist or not a little too, shall we say, I guess in our case, aggressive towards spiritual things out of churches? Like, again, right? Me and my wife, not to toot our own horns, have been kicked out of 2 establishments, 2 churches.
And a small group.
Well, no, that's kind of together with it. Right, I can't. That's double dipping, wife. The small group was the reason why we were kicked out of that church. Stop it.
Okay, the place I worked at.
Yeah, we left before they got around to kicking us out of that. But they would have eventually, to be fair. You made me lose my train of thought. Bring the train back, wife. The boys have been watching Thomas the Train lately, and unfortunately, I think the metaphors are starting to get to me. But right, while they're overly accepting and will reach out to any fag who walks down the corner in like tight pants.
No, they literally have the symbol of the fag in tight pants.
Yeah, I should get into this. I don't know. I made a video about this ages ago. I need to go over this to help people understand the symbology and everything in movies sometimes. Only twice. Those are rookie numbers. Thanks, Arcanes. Thank you. All right. When you get into double digits, let me know. We'll get you a plaque. But right. What were we kicked out for? I believe because we get down to it, because we called lesbians dykes once.
I told them that.
And I encouraged, and then the second time was because I encouraged young women to maybe, instead of becoming the doctor, to marry the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And those were the reasons why we were kicked out, right?
Well, we don't really know for sure, but those are our suspicions.
It's most likely that, to be honest.
It is.
If it were the spiritual warfare stuff, they would have.
Well, also just basically saying about about their dads.
Yes.
Out there.
But we've talked ad nauseam about that in other streams. I've only gotten for the first paragraph. This is great. We can be here all night. But what I was trying to get at before you derailed me again, the train, they're everywhere. God, if this keeps up, we're going to have a drinking game with train puns.
Who's the conductor in that one?
Jesus, take the wheel. Oh, okay.
That's not
Jesus, my conductor. God made the track.
The music track or the train track.
No.
That's all I hear is a little.
The worst part is that literally could have been one of the Sunday school lessons that I was growing up with. That's how crappy they were. How bad they were, man. Oh, what was I saying? Felt like it was a good point too, and then it's just gone. I've been staying up too late. I'm not gonna lie. Wife's been joining me. We've been building bunkers on the front lines. It's been a good time. Foxhole goes well, though our frigate sank last night. I wasn't part of that. I wasn't part of that failure.
I just became your manual labor, I realized.
You enjoyed it.
I know.
I gave her a motorcycle, and then she just started building stuff. It was awesome. And she drove around for a while. Then I said, "Come on back, child." And then she started building.
I was doing donuts in the road.
It was perfect.
With my little sidecar.
Why do you think I gave you the little motorcycle
really
to play
happy.
with? Yes. We should have filmed it. You were very entertaining.
Please, I didn't hit anything important.
Yes, indeed. Oh, okay.
Where are we at?
I guess I should probably
We're
get into it. I'm going to rewatch this later and I'm going to go, I know what point I was trying to say. Oh, right. That was enough to get us kicked out. But you can have people accepting prostitutes, fags, and all this other stuff, right? Without making them change their ways. And the part is you should be praying for them to repent. But they don't demand at least a starting of a repentance. They just accept them in. Right? And then what happens in that situation when they're not enacting repentance? Well, then they change the church to match them.
Oh, yeah, you let so many in, they're going to overrule you.
Yeah, and if they aren't actively repenting...
Why would they?
Yeah,
they already got hold of it. I mean, nowadays you got witchcraft in churches.
It's true. Anyway, that is my point. You should always start questioning people who... questioning people when they want to accept repentance, except for the things they don't want repentance for. Like if you go into any of these churchian places and you hint that, hey, if you allow gays and, we're supposed to reach out, aren't we supposed to reach out to the racist and the Nazi? Shouldn't you be praying for them to repent? And some of them might give lip service, but are any of them going to let them in their church?
No.
Of course not. Be a racist mother trucker in a church and see how fast they kick you out. Because apparently saying mean things to another race is worse than sexual sin. I missed the part where Sodom and Gomorrah were just being really bad, nasty, angry racists. And that's why they were burnt from heaven. It wasn't, the whole faggotry and the raping of other males or anything like that. And being so twisted and weird that the strangers come in and they're like, okay, we're going to take them out and rape them all. It wasn't that they got burned for. It was because they looked over the hill and looked at the Moabites, who probably didn't exist, and went, you guys are dark-skinned. We don't like you. No, it was because of the sexual sin. It's a big deal. All right, I'm going to get back to the lesson. We're 18 minutes in. I read one paragraph. High five for distractions. Okay. That was weird. All right, to Ehud's story. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon. What a name. Eglon, the fat man. Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He gathered to himself the Ammonites and the Amalekites and went all the kites and went out. Oh shit, that's a racist term technically too. I was actually thinking of like kites, not kites, but never mind. And went out and defeated Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms.
Is a male kites.
It
was a horrible joke.
And the people of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. You should also be paying a little attention. If you guys read more of Joshua, some of these nations that the Eglon brought together were people that were supposed to be killed off by Joshua and them, and they did not kill them off. and they did not kill them off. So we already see them.
And they did not kill them.
Not only are they a stumbling block, right? They're also actively trying to conquer them. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, and the Lord raised up for them a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. The people of Israel sent tribute by him to Eglon, the king of
I would laugh if he
Moab.
was really left-handed.
He is left-handed.
there-
They just said he was left-handed. What?
Like
Sometimes.
a right-handed man. I think that's
And Ehud made for himself a sword with two edges, a cubit in length, and he bound it on his right thigh under his clothes. And he presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Eglon was very fat, was a very fat man. You know, this is the Bible, not me. And then Ehud, and when Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who carried the tribute. But he himself turned back at the idols near Gilgal and said, "I have a secret message for you, O king." And he, the king, commanded silence, and all his attendants went out from his presence. And Ehud came to him as he was sitting alone in his cool roof chamber, and Ehud said, "I have a message from God for you." And he arose from his seat, and Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And the hilt also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not pull the sword out of his belly, and the dung came out.
Oh gosh,
Stabby, stab.
that's really.
Yeah. And
How
then
much was stuck up in his car?
well, he was a fat man. Then Ehud went out into the porch and closed the doors of the roof chamber behind him and locked them. When he had gone, the servants came, and when they saw that the doors of the roof chamber were locked, they thought, "Surely he is relieving himself in the closet of the cool chamber." By the way, if they had walked in on him while he was pooping, they probably would have been executed. Ancient kings didn't mess around. And they waited till they were embarrassed. I mean, I wonder how long. Like, he is a fat man, right? Constipation is a thing when you're really fat. So I'm guessing this is even longer than what you and I would have waited. So they're probably there for a couple hours, just wondering when he's going to be done pooping. But when he still did not open the doors of the roof chamber, they took the key and opened them, and there lay their lord dead and on the floor. Ehud escaped while they delayed, and he passed through the idols and escaped to Serah. When he arrived, he sounded the trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim. Then the people of Israel went down with him from the hill country, and he was their leader. And he said to them, "Follow after me, for the Lord has given your enemies, the Moabites, into your hands." So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan against the Moabites, and did not allow anyone to pass over. And they killed at that time about 10,000 of the Moabites, all strong, able-bodied men. Not a man escaped. Judges 3:12-30. So, crazy story. Lots of fun details. I used to love to read that one when I was younger. I don't know why. I mean, first of all, like, talk about failure of the ancient Secret Service, if you know what I mean. Is it so inconceivable that a guy might hide a blade on his other thigh? Oh! Apparently, pat downs had not been invented yet by the Moabites. But I think also there's some stuff in here that we can glean. Ehud seems to have been trusted by the Moabites for one reason or another, right? He says, "I have a secret message for you." And instantly the king of Moab sends everybody out. I assume, right, we're going with like an espionage angle, like he was pretending to give up maybe rebels or something, and the king wanted to know about it personally. That makes sense. Hence, he knew he could get in with lighter security, that they wouldn't check him as much, and that the king would want to talk to him alone. We could probably hint that that's probably happened once or twice before. They were also using him to send tribute. We can also, 18 years, right? They were sending tribute. So he's probably done this more than once. He noticed the lapse of security, took advantage of the left hand.
You know where he took his dump?
Thank you for the dump talk, wife. She likes the Three Stooges too. It's all poop jokes and
The
smacks
Three
in the
Stooges is
head,
not
and
all poop,
ball
no.
shots. This is the humor I have to deal with sometimes. God, I love her, but sometimes her humor is so
This is why
base.
I can't sit still in Sunday school during
Well,
the
you needed
kids,
someone
I
to do
had
like a ball
edit-
shot every now and
No,
then.
I'm not.
Poop talk. Stabbity stab. Poop. Ah, it's okay. You know, she helped me practice for when I had to teach teenagers.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
This is why I'm younger.
Why you make me feel like I robbed the cradle? She's only 3 years younger than me. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. Ehud, oh shoot,
What?
pretty sure that was supposed to be with the rest of the verse. I'll have to reread that later. You guys see nothing. Ehud, an interesting man we hear one story about, and the fact that he was left-handed. Still, we can glean from the details from the narrative. He assassinated a world leader in the name of God and his nation. God not only approved of his actions, but blessed him and upheld him in battle. Again, right? We know any churchian would never accept this kind of thought, right? Unless it was like an assassination of Hitler in their minds, which is always funny to me. Hitler! Anything can be done to Hitler! That's distracting for some reason. Back to what we were doing. All right. The judge then rallies Israel and destroys a force of 10,000 men, breaking Moab's hold over his nation and people by the Almighty's will. The devil took a massive loss that day, and that loss had a very tangible, real-world military and political feel. The modern Christian finds the concept an anathema, a blight on Christian character, that any spiritual war would also have a physical element between flesh and blood, humans fighting in the Lord's decree. The only exception to this is World War II, and whenever the establishment of the day can convince people of a just war, a nebulous term that changes on a generational basis with the utmost twisting of the word just to all the term means is what a cabal of devil worshippers want it to mean. I have to say, it is a supreme evil that the best warriors of Christianity for the longest time were tricked into doing the devil's bidding. Annoying, obnoxious. You know, it took generations to get to the Muslims to the point where they weren't constantly raiding, slaving, and raping everywhere, and they were just kind of staying in their own borders. Generations of warfare. And now, within a generation, they've been stirred up enough that they're probably going to be raiders for the next God knows how long again. Thanks, wife. Which seems to be the goal in my mind, right? You know, people say, oh, it's so chaotic, weird. What are the plans? Well, the plan seemed to have been take a huge portion of the Islamic territory and push the Islamic nations into Europe so they fight the Europeans and Israel gets their little share, whatever. And then they benefit from the chaos. Muslims and Christians are fighting again when the Muslims have finally been cowed. So great. Now, that doesn't mean you don't fight the Muslims in the times to come, because guess what? They've been stirred up and they're going to do everything they can to destroy Christianity. Yes, even before they destroy Israel, they would want to destroy us first. I know, doesn't make sense, but it's one of those things. It's like the orcs in the Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah, because of the orcs in Lord of the Rings, right? You have all those times in Lord of the Rings. It's a great analogy for the real world. They hate each other. They'll kill each other all the time. But if good is nearby, they're going to attack them together. It's the same thing. Why in Europe right now, with all the weird terrorist attacks and all the stuff that they were doing, they were always attacking churches. Were they ever attacking gay nightclubs? They attacked one gay magazine, right? Once. And that was only because they spoke out against them. Notice the gays not speaking out against that. And then also, we see these Muslim parents, right, trying to stop the school district from teaching all the tranny business. What happened there? Instantly suppressed and slapped around, right? Even though they were Muslim. The reason for that is because in these two scenarios, you had two different groups acting up when the devil didn't want them to act up. In the first case, Charlie Hebdo, right? This was a gay magazine that was supposed to toe the line, but didn't because they were worried that they were going to be next on the menu once the Muslims were done, right? What does the devil do? Tax them directly, basically puts them back in line. They never do it again. Gay community does much the same after that. Then the other side, right, we see recently Muslim families saying, hey, don't teach our kids to be trannies. They instantly get suppressed. And there's no terrorist attacks against the schools, which they really should have been, right? If Islam was what they say they are, they should have attacked the school districts in response to this. It shouldn't have been, oh, please don't turn our kids into trannies, get slapped around, and then go away. It would have been, don't turn our kids into trannies, get slapped, and then all the teachers get stabbed, right? Am I wrong? This is exactly what should have happened. They should have all gotten stabbed, blown up. That's what they do with just like a spit wad in the general direction of the Quran if a Christian's around, right? But if the active atheist freaks and Satanist freaks, as we know, start turning their kids into trannies, and they complain about it, and then are told to shove off and are suppressed, they do nothing. Hello? In the words of a very famous Muslim meme, brother, you, brother, you. That is a hilarious meme. It's just this really big Muslim guy on a stream, like something about faggotry or something comes up, and he goes, brother, you. And he has this really big. It's very entertaining. It's a good response. I recommend that meme hardcore. See, that's what bothers me.
I'm just trying to get
it's also not a surprise to me that who is Israel desperately trying to destroy? Iran. Persians aren't your standard Muslim, right? They're not your Arabic Muslim. They're a different animal. They're much more civilized. They can bake more nations, blah, blah, blah. So naturally, they want to destroy them and then drive all the crazy Moorish type Muslims into Europe to go crazy. I don't know. It's a theory, but it just seems to make sense if you look at it all goes around. And again, that's how you have the devil's house not fight itself, right? What does God say? Jesus Christ specifically say when they try to say by the power of Beelzebub, by the power of the devil, he's driving out demons. He's like, the devil's house won't stand if they're fighting each other. This is how they fight each other without disrupting the overall plan. The devil puts them on a course. They can fight and kill each other in the process. He doesn't care as long as his goal gets done. He doesn't care what happens to his subordinates. It's like a dog-eat-dog world in the devil's playground, if that makes any sense. It's disturbing to think about, but Jordan Peterson, a very famous devil worshiper at this point, right, has several weird dreams in his books. Yes, I'm embarrassed to say I got to these and then couldn't read it anymore.
Well, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but basically, one of these weird drug-induced dreams has this image of a giant eye overlooking a bunch of pyramids with every bunch of people struggling to get to the top of these pyramids. And then an eye looking over everything. See, the eye obviously represents the devil. This is a one-eye imagery business, right? And then all the pyramids are all the different groups. You got Islam. You got something like the Masons, right? Come to mind. Various different world groups. Buddhists over here, right? In many ways, they're all conflicting and fighting amongst each other and fighting amongst themselves to get to the top of their pyramid, right? But the devil's on top of all of it and drives them all towards a different goal. He doesn't care which one does it. He doesn't care if the Jews maintain their status as his favorite butt boys or not. He doesn't really care about that, right? He's like, as long as his will is done, he doesn't care. As long as not too many of his followers are killed that he loses power on earth, he doesn't care about them, right? This isn't it's a hard concept, but it's not that hard when you stop to think about it, right? So let's say a bunch of Muslims do kill some fags at some point, right? The Charlie Hebdo thing, right? He doesn't care. The point was he was trying to force them in line so everybody's pushing towards the same goal. Whew. Anyway, that's how you have situations where seemingly groups that should be hating on each other work together to fight Christ and fight Christianity. It's a pain in the butt. I hate it. But it is what it is. That's why in a scenario like in China, where you have Muslims, you have Buddhists, you have all this other stuff, right? Who got suppressed the hardest? It was the Christians. What? Right? The Christians. How many Christian terrorist attacks happened in China in the last 200 years? Not very many. And yet, Christians were the ones being suppressed, even as you had all the Muslim terrorism going on with China and all that. But they did suppress those Muslims, the Uyghurs and all those other guys, right? But it wasn't never on the same scale that they suppressed Christians, despite the fact that Christians at that point were so wishy-washy that they knew they were never going to rebel or anything. Right? If a Chinese Christian rebellion started up, let's say 50 years ago, man, that's 50 is too long. Well, no, wait. Time ever moves on. It's 2024 right now. That's half. That'd be like 1985. So like 1990. Let's say a Christian Chinese rebellion started up in 1990. How many people would actually have supported that Christian rebellion from the Christian world? None of them. They would have all cut it down. Oh, because saying, "Oh, we're not supposed to be political, right? We don't attack our Christian religion to politics." Right? There was no chance in the world that a Christian rebellion was going to cause problems in China. Yet that was the thing that was suppressed and attacked by the atheist regime and all that. So that's fun. Again, and I've brought this up in previous streams, Buddhists have caused immense pain and destruction all throughout China. The amount, like, you read through Chinese wars, it's like 1 in every 3 of them was a Buddhist rebellion of some kind. Just some crazy warrior monks doing crazy shit. Pain in the ass. Oh, I know. I got to keep moving. I'm getting distracted by random history. But I'm enjoying it. Yeah. People who want to for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Ephesians 6:12. People who want to cherry pick on war, whether we look to pacifist groups or the modern hypocrites of the churchian world, love to misuse this verse to mean our only fight is spiritual in nature. Essentially, when Paul says our fight is not with flesh and blood, but with the principalities, watchers, turned dark gods of this world, they take it to mean all of our battles will be won with prayer. Did God call Ehud to sit in a room all day and pray? Not to undermine those who are called to such lives. Their prayers are... Oh, no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Their prayers are conduits and amplifiers of God's power and shouldn't be underestimated in their importance. But the God of heaven's armies makes things clear. Our fight is with our spiritual enemy behind the physical fighting. As in, when we take up physical arms against our physical enemies, our true fight is against the spiritual being behind those armies and criminals and cultic freaks who we face. This is an important distinction, right? If the Christian warriors have to fight Muslims, or we have to fight the coming Aztec threat in the form of the cartels, right? Do you want to say your joke real quick?
No.
No? They'd probably laugh, but we'll let it go.
It has to do with poop again.
Poop jokes? There, see? Every time.
We prayed that the poop would stop.
Well, in this case, that they think the man's still pooping. And it wasn't half as funny as you think it was.
It's not funny. It's just
I'm being pushed forward by my wife. Apparently, she wants me like in your face as she makes poop jokes. I married her for a good reason.
You're talking into the mic. Your mouth is closer to the mic than mine. That's right.
Why is okay? I'm going back here. What are you doing, you weirdo? Anyway,
I'm trying to be mature.
This is you trying to be mature. What do you do when you're not, man? Woo. Anyway.
It's been a long day.
Yes, it has. Very long. Oh, right. As I was saying, let's stop picking on the Muslims for 5 minutes. Let's say we have to take up arms against notably what's supposed to be an atheistic group, maybe like the current Ukrainian army, right? But a different group that pops up. Probably whatever mercenary group that is used to try to suppress various groups of Americans going forward, right? Let's say nebulous PMC forces, right, that are atheist in nature. Well, we're not fighting them so much as this cosmic powers that are pushing them to come and kill us. Yes, we're fighting them physically, and you have to, but you got to remember the power behind them is why they're there. And this actually is important for predicting behavior, right? As I pointed out, it's really hard to figure out why Muslims aren't attacking every gay bar in a 10-mile radius and a 20-mile radius of the heart of Paris right now, of how much power they have there. Why are they letting those people alone, right? When we have all these stories of them going after Catholic churches and all this other stuff. Well, it's, as we pointed out, because they are being pushed by the devil to work towards a certain goal. Likewise, if a PMC group is a mercenary group and you're fighting them because they're being paid to kill you, you're trying to suppress whatever enclave you've created in the coming cosmic nonsense, political nonsense, we should also say, in the collapse of the empire. You should be prepared for them to act against their best interests because they're being pushed by a force that doesn't care about their interests, right? They might care. They might act like mercenaries a little bit, but because as we pointed out, there's still those moments when groups go out of line and get slapped around, but you should be ready for them when they act against their interest because they're being pushed by those cosmic entities and political factors and all that. Random little side notes. Right. This is an important distinction. Everything all right? Ehud was the second of a long line of judges fighting a myriad of different nations and peoples, conquering and oppressing Israel. In some cases, attempting to annihilate them, such as in Gideon's story. What? He's over there, babe. He's sleeping on the couch. Yet they were fighting the same enemy, just different faces of him. Notice that in this time frame, the enemies of Israel aren't always chosen by God, but usually just allowed to have victory over Israel. Their punishment is the loss of protection from the Almighty, and the devil and his cronies do the rest. There will be times when God calls up leaders who then become his instrument of will from foreign nations, like Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus. Did I spell Nebuchadnezzar right? I'm gonna have to check on that one later. Whose empires tend to be co-opted by the principalities and then punished in return. Right? Remember that whole episode in Daniel that we've brought up.
Why you spell it?
I think I did spell Nebuchadnezzar. But if you remember that story I always bring up in Daniel about the Watchers fighting, and one of them's the Prince of Persia. Yeah, Prince of Persia. Right. Remember, Cyrus, the Persian emperor, was God's tool for a while, but eventually that empire falls afoul of God and is torn down. And that Persian watcher, the Watcher of Persia, if you will, the entity behind the Persian Empire, was clearly a rebellion against God at some point. So, little stuff like that. Where am I? The point I'm making here is there are a few times. The point I'm making is there are a few times in the Bible that spiritual warfare didn't spill into the physical realm or even start there. Our enemies are perfectly willing and able to use physical force against us, so we must be willing to do the same. The same force pushes them to act against us, and they will come at us whether God protects us or not. The Almighty's protection and upholding hands in war is what gives us the edge over the physical and spiritual forces of darkness arrayed against us. And as I just pointed out, even if you run afoul with sin and God withholds his hands of protection, just like Israel, that's when the devil takes advantage. So don't sin too much. Some will point to the martyrs of the early church and claim that this is the only strategy God employs against his enemies on earth now that Christ has come and his goal is to save the faithful. This is silly for a few reasons. The first is that God has been orchestrating the reclamation of the nations, people, and the earth itself ever since he declared the first prophecy against the serpent in the garden. Right? You guys remember that first lesson, right? All the way back then, God had the plan for the cross, and he's been setting it up ever since. He was always planning on saving the nations and the people. It just took a long time to set up. He was trying to save the nations even when he was destroying physical armies and peoples with his physical servants on earth. Nothing has changed with the Almighty's goals. Only the power in the spiritual realms that has shifted thanks to the cross. Now even the mention of Jesus Christ's name makes the demons shudder. The second point is martyrdom was the correct strategy for the time. Remember, the Romans were a different crowd than we face today. What worked to proselytize them into the faith, will not work on the Hun or the Mongol or the devil-worshipping freaks in our governments or the Aztec coming up, the cartel Aztec, if you will. A Roman is impressed by your dedication to your God when you're burned at the stake singing his praises. The Mongol laughs and says, "Thank you for not fighting back." That's the difference. This is an important difference, guys. I want you guys to see that. I respect the martyrs. I had a book about all the different martyrs, a bunch of them you never heard about even in the modern era. And I read that thing cover to cover dozens of times. Might have been. I don't know. It was a fancy new book.
It sounds like
it was all about martyrs. It was martyr stories. All the rest. Some of them are correct. You wouldn't expect the martyrs in Indonesia, modern day Indonesia, man. The Muslims in Indonesia are shit. I'm sorry. They're horrible people who actively go after children. I have no problem saying that. They say, "Oh, they're not all that way." I don't care. That means the normal ones let their crazy people do that, and that's shit. They have no excuse, and everyone ignored it. This is like modern day stuff. We're talking 2000s.
There's a lot of
like Indonesia,
body smugglers and crap like that.
Indonesia 2000s were where a lot of these.
I've heard some stories.
Yeah, like early 2000s were where a lot of this stuff, like Christian schools that were like Christian camps. You send your kid to a Christian camp. They would actively go after the Christian camp to kill all the children.
And it's
it's that kind of evil. And it wasn't just killing them, torturing them, chasing them down in the jungle, that kind of crap. And that was, did you hear a peep of that in the 2000s? I know I didn't. No one talked about that shit. If it wasn't for that book, I would have never known that Indonesia even had a problem with that. So, I have a thing. I don't like people killing my people. And I have kids now myself. So, I know who my enemy is. You should make sure you know who yours are. So, that was a oddly passionate one that came out of nowhere. The point I was trying to get, Indonesia is still largely Islamic. Korea, especially North Korea, largely atheist now for different reasons. But you get the point there. China has a large Christian population for the most part, but a lot of it actually got suppressed and destroyed. I'm trying to get to the point. China might actually, martyrdom wouldn't be out of the question of working. The point I'm trying to get at is there's a group of peoples that martyrdom works on. They're usually more civilized. Take, for example, we brought up Gandhi the other day. All the Gandhi jokes are going to hit the chat.
I believe that. I misheard you.
Right. As we brought up, why did Gandhi's tactic work on the British? Because they were civilized and they were Christian at base. So starving to death prisoners is not what a Christian man is supposed to do. So if Gandhi starved himself, that forced them into submission. Hilarious, right? They're so civilized, right? If Gandhi had come at them with guns, they would have shot him, beat him to death, stabbed him, and had no problem with it. They did it several times in India. But all he had to do was surrender and threaten to kill himself, and they collapsed. That is actually hilarious to me. They definitely wouldn't have acted that way with the Boers, by the way. I'm Dutch. I am Rally. They actively did starve to death women and children in the Boer Wars. But an Indian starves himself to death.
It's a religious thing, don't you know?
There's something weird about that. I'm going to bring this up.
There are some weird things about certain civilizations that will purposely starve themselves for getting extra, whatever you call it.
Yes, they do, but it wouldn't have worked against the British.
No, but
if they viewed it like that. But since they viewed it as, oh no, he's in our prison and he's a good man, I was
collateral
like, oh no. And while in like not like 20 years earlier, 30 years, I'm trying to think of when Gandhi was, but a recent time frame to this, they literally took all the women and children, the Dutch women and children, they're called Boers in South Africa. They couldn't defeat the men, right? The men were doing a bush war in Africa. South Africa, and they were kicking the British's asses. They couldn't beat them. So they took all the women and children from all the villages, and they starved them to death in work camps. The first, if you will, Holocaust, right?
You mean the official Holocaust?
But one freaking skinny pervert in India starves himself, and they give up the entire continent? Subcontinent, but hey, they can actively rape, kill, and starve to death a bunch of white women and children. That's fine. Fuck the Dutch, right? Sometimes I get a little. Ooh, I don't know what I want in this situation. I guess I want consistency. That's what I want. Why couldn't they just let Gandhi starve to death? Oh, everyone get mad for a little while, and then they would have forgot about him in a year. Especially in India, where they kill themselves for starvation 1 billion times a day. It's sometimes I walk on something in my own head while we're on stream, and I get a little irritated. Just a little irritated. And I realize it's probably the devil working again in that situation. Why are Christian men more hesitant to starve Buddhist men to death than they are starving other Christian women and children? Doesn't make any damn sense. Also a little strange.
I mean, it's always strange when the Buddhist monks are always walking on weird things that would have naturally.
Yes, there's probably demonic energies there. It's not what we're really talking about here.
I know.
I'm talking more about why those Christian men were like, the annoying thing is those very same soldiers talked about when they were fighting the Zulu, like a respect for the warriors of the Zulus and how they would accept their fate, even though they had only spears of honor and all this. And then they start getting their asses kicked by the Boers, who proved themselves to be better fighters than both the Zulus and the British, being completely outnumbered. Why?
Because they were weak.
Yes. No. And then they don't get the same respect, right? Irritation is mine, but that's okay. I'm going to calm down. We'll get back into this before I completely have before I start talking about Rhodesia and all that. We'll be here all day. By the way, look up Rhodesia Fire Force. Crazy motherfuckers. Cool stuff. Those dudes were nuts. You don't remember them? I brought them up. Remember, I did that. I had that whole moment where I was looking up the Rhodesian Fire Force guys. Why are you looking at me like that? Now you're just doing it to mess with my head and it's working. What do you want? What is it? Is it a poop joke? Do you want a fire poop joke?
No.
Hello? Okay, I'm on stream here. I'm going to get back to work. Yeah, Fire Force. So they literally...
I want to hear what happened.
Oh!
Wait.
Oh!
Because we're here for tangents and you don't want to...
Tangents.
It's tangents.
Right. So, Rhodesia Fire Force would have scouts in the field. They'd find the scouts, and these guys, like a fire department, hence where they get their name, would literally be just on call, and they would jump in. Like a huge portion of them would jump in an airplane, fly really low as possible with their parachutes, and like jump all the parachutes out, then have helicopters fly around the attack spot. Mm-hmm. And being completely outnumbered, would land their guys in positions to block the retreat, even though they're outnumbered going in. And then reinforcements would come up. They'd fry an entire group of insurgents or whatever, who, by the way, in the Rhodesian War, most of the insurgents, like, they made it sound like, oh, hey, this is the black people trying to rise up and have their nation. No, the local black people were actually being killed by these insurgents. These were actually foreign black people from neighboring nations coming in, and basically it was a situation of you join with us or we rape and kill all of you. So they would conquer these little black villages, make them work for them, and then the white people would come in and kill everybody. It wasn't a good situation for everyone involved. Because, again, they were having trouble distinguishing who was an enemy and who wasn't. But you had these invaders coming in, using the fact that these villages were stuck in a hard place where they couldn't side with the invaders and they couldn't side with the people defending.
Now I remember. Okay.
Yeah. I got to remember all the tactics, but the tactics were crazy. Like, they repurposed these helicopters and things.
From random things that they repurposed.
Yeah, and they had, and it was, I got to read, and it deserves justice. I got to go back because their tactics were insane. And very effective.
Now I remember.
They were like in and out before you know it. It's good stuff. Hey, I'm just shut up. Look them up. They're cool. Back to Ehud. I say this to point out God was raising up the Romans, a naturally tolerant people who generally let you run your own governments and religions as long as you paid them taxes. To spread Christianity to the four corners of the earth. The plan involved converting them. This wasn't possible with Islamic nations who came later. When the come on. No, I want to scroll. When the northern barbarians, such as the Vandals and the Vikings, conquered Christian land, they soon were impressed by God's power and people changing their ways and converting. The Normans come to mind, right? The resulting nations would be more powerful, larger, accomplish more, create better art, and become overall more civilized than the pagan Norse kingdoms. Most people don't know that the Christian Swedish Empire accomplished far more than all the Viking raiders combined. And Normans, though not the most moral, were far more dangerous than their pagan ancestors. Literally, like there's a battle in the medieval period in Sicily, where I think something like 150 Norman knights defeat like 5,000 mercenaries and stuff. Just 150 of them. Most people don't know a lot of the kingdoms that pop up in like central and southern Italy in this time period were Norman. Just like a Normandy, right? The Norman Vikings, the guys who conquered England and all that. They were actually also conquering a bunch of land in Italy and Sicily because they were brought in as mercenaries. And then they went, or we could just take these kingdoms as ours. And they did. They even captured a pope and threatened him until he recanted and let them keep their lands. None of them were excommunicated for that, by the way. Holding a pope hostage. Not saying they were the most religious men in the world, but I'm sorry, but none of the pagan Vikings managed to capture a pope.
That's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, they got their asses kicked by the Christians. Most of the pagan Vikings actually were more pirates than anything else. Like, people have this image in their head of like, even I like the glorified image of the Viking. But the real Viking wasn't like that. Generally, what they did was kill a lot of villagers and then sit there and get paid to leave. That's basically what they did. They attacked nations that weren't used to fighting. They attacked weak nations. And when those nations learned how to fight back, they got their asses kicked almost 90% of the time. And that's kind of embarrassing. I mean, there's some good ones. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's some interesting ones. But those generally became Christian. Like, I brought up... I always forget his name, but like the last big Viking, he became a Christian, and he was kicked out of his kingdom, and he became a mercenary for the Coptic Christians down there fighting Turks all day long. He might have blinded an emperor. That definitely happened. To be fair, that emperor tried to have him, betrayed him, so he blinded him and turned the people against him. That's fun. Probably why you shouldn't bring foreign mercenaries into your kingdom, by the way. And then He goes back, marries a Russian princess that he like. That's the whole reason why he
I like
became
this
a
story.
mercenary.
I like this story.
Yeah, the whole reason why he became a
The original thing of a mail order bride.
well, in a way, he was almost like a mail ordered husband because he got kicked out of his kingdom.
Mail ordered.
Because he got kicked out of his kingdom, and his future wife's dad took him in, like it was his asylum, and he fell in love with her,
I know
and
the
then he
story.
went, and he's like, the dad actually liked him, the
That's
Russian baron or whatever, and went, I want to give you my daughter in marriage, but you gotta do something, you gotta have some wealth under your thing. So he okay. Goes off, becomes a mercenary, gets really rich, comes back, marries his princess, goes back to his kingdom, kicks the pretenders off the throne, and starts up the Viking kingdoms that would eventually become the Swedish Empire. I need to double check that was him that started the Swedish Empire, though. He at least came back and took his throne. Again, Christian Vikings were a lot more dangerous than pagan Vikings. But what are you going to do? All right. The most famous Viking, often called the last of the Vikings, was a Christian mercenary who fought Muslims for the majority of his younger years before marrying a Christian Russian princess and returning home to reclaim his throne under a Christian monarchy. All those nations mentioned who responded to the martyrs were people prone to converting to God and the kingdom of heaven when exposed to the truth. If we look at the same time period with another group of barbarians, we can see not every group is willing to follow Christ. And when they win military victories, Christianity diminishes rather than grows. The modern churchians
don't know history.
You can't. Oh my gosh. Here we go. The modern churchians have a tendency to cherry pick history to suit their feminized philosophy. For example, they would point to Rome's persecution of Christians, making Christianity stronger within the empire as proof that we should never fight those we wish to convert. They then ignore a certain chapter of history in the Levant and the Middle East. If you don't know, the Levant is a fancy term for North Africa, Palestine, Egypt, and going up like Lebanon and Turkey. Levant. It's that whole part of the Mediterranean. If you can imagine, right? Here's Europe, Africa. It's this part. All that part touching the Mediterranean. Every single Islamic nation that is outside of the Saudi Arabia and the Arabian Peninsula, from Egypt to North Africa to Turkey, all used to be Christian nations. Every single one. Now, there isn't even a memory of those Christian kingdoms outside of written reports in the West. If Islam had succeeded in conquering Europe, which was very much their purpose, unlike Germany in World War II, there would be no memory of Christendom at all. Christianity would have survived somewhere else, but greatly diminished. And that's the cold, hard truth. Except for the Saudi Arabia, like that peninsula there, those few nations, and even those were technically pagan before they become Islamic, but whatever. I repeat myself. All of those nations that you see on the map that are Islamic right now, North Africa, Egypt, Alexandria was one of the, Alexandria had a Pope figure who was equal in power to the Pope and to the Coptic guy, the patriarch of the Coptic Church, right? You know how the Great Schism was between the Coptic Church and the Pope and all that, right? Well, before this, there was a third guy in that power structure who was in Alexandria. The Bishop of Alexandria was equal in power to the Pope in Rome and to the Patriarch in Constantinople. It was originally a three-part system rather than a two-part system that then became a one-part system when Constantinople fell for a while. That is how entrenched Christianity was in Egypt, in all of North Africa, in Lebanon, in all of Turkey. All of that territory was once Christian. All of it. You don't even have any Christian artifacts left over these days. And, you can see it in Istanbul, right? Constantinople became Istanbul, as the song goes.
Not Istanbul.
Right? And what do? They build over everything. They take the foundation and they build over it. And then suddenly it's all Muslim all the time. Right? Man, I did not mean for this to be like a Muslim slapping episode.
Like you mentioned Turkey. I know some people in Turkey.
Yeah.
Their son has like a nade scar from a.
Yeah. And yeah. Right. Get back to the point. The point is that Islam and Buddhism have been witness to thousands of years of Christian martyrs. Yeah, Buddhists too.
Yeah.
I brought up all the Chinese stuff.
The Chinese.
Yeah. And Japan, also a great example. How little Japanese converts there are, despite all of everything. Martyrs. And I mean, even Japan was defeated militarily, and we still didn't get them Christian. That was because when they were defeated militarily, they weren't defeated by Christians anymore at that point. Yeah. Christians were enslaved at that point. Okay. Thousands of years of Christian martyrs and the various peoples under these religions' grasp have not changed. There are individual and occasional group converts, but the territory and the nations, and thus the majority of the people, still reject God. Worse, they systematically destroy Christian enclaves and annihilate even the memory of their existence. Dying as a martyr to a Muslim invasion is pointless. Doing so just means that there is one less sword to fight them, and that is the reality of the world. It's the same with what we're probably going to have to deal with more, which is the resurgence of the Aztecs, like the crazy religion the cartels are doing. Like, that's even worse, in my opinion. Like, a Muslim invasion is far more likely to look on your martyrdom with like, being impressed with your martyrdom than a Aztec is. Like an Aztec, he wants you to die a martyrdom death. He wants to torture you to death. Okay? His dark god likes that. The Aztecs used to torture children to make them cry because they thought the crying pleased the gods. Like it wasn't just enough to kill them. They had to torture them. Ooh. And you wonder why I look at Cortez so positively. It's because I actually looked up what the Aztecs did and I went, oh, you know what? I kind of like that they got beat up by these crazy gold-loving mercenary dudes. It's kind of entertaining. like God goes, oh, okay, you're gonna be assholes. You're gonna do this to children. You're gonna scream. I'm gonna take like 500 to 1,000 dudes with some armor. Take all your enemies, put them behind them, and I'm going to give them my blessing to murder all of you and steal all your gold. And they get all your gold because you've been assholes. By the way, have fun. I like that. God knew what he was doing. Anyway, we're probably going to have to deal with that more. And so it's even less good to martyr yourself against a freaking future Aztec, because if they get in touch with their Aztec roots, they're literally sacrificing you for power to their dark god. So it means nothing. They are not going to change. Yay.
I was like, why would they change?
Yeah. Some of the devil's servants must be fought head on. Others must be reasoned with. Still others must be driven out from our midst because of their corrupting influence. And others should be sent brave martyrs to convince them of their folly. But don't delude yourself. There are thousands of martyrs who died for nothing. Their sacrifices have left nothing behind. And like the numerous prophets who were slaughtered in the Bible for announcing God's will and judgment, nobody listened. I do not downplay the prophets or brave men dying for Christ. In fact, many of their sacrifices were necessary to have these people groups condemned by their own actions. Remember, we talked about how people sins exist. Like, you as a people have to accept certain sins that get you as a collective. This goes for the America, for allowing our empire to be taken over by Satanists. We're going to all pay for that. Sucks for us Californians even more, because we're part of the empire. We were never in the empire. We were always conquered by it. But we're going to have to pay for the fact that our forefathers were too chicken to actually do something about it. All right, then by their own actions. If people have no chance to reject Christ, then they cannot be destroyed for not choosing to follow him. But if they kill all his messengers, servants, and prophets sent to them and stubbornly follow their dark gods, then only one answer is available. Prove to them that their gods are inferior to the Almighty God of heaven's armies. Whether or not that happens on the day of the Lord or by his servants on earth is besides the point. Eventually, every knee will bow. And though we see the Mexicans going more Aztec every day, they did become Catholic for a large portion of their history because God showed that he was a stronger God and that the Aztec gods couldn't protect them. Who would have guessed when you run into a vicious, violent warrior race that a whole point of their lives is to capture people and torture them and sacrifice them to their dark gods, that the only way to convert them is to kill them to the point that they realize that their dark gods are no match for the Almighty? You know, different strategies for different folks. Who would have thought? Needs to say, that tactic wouldn't work on the Amish. Yeah. Okay. I will leave you with this verse on seasons, because there is a season and a tactic for every enemy and convert. I hate finding spelling errors. That's grammar error. Would be convert to the kingdom of heaven. Best you find these seasons, because choosing the wrong one could lead to a largely pointless death that will be avenged one day, but still a casualty in a spiritual war of gods and the Almighty. And don't forget to sharpen your left-handed knives. There are metaphorical and physical fat men to stab when things fall apart, after all. Ehud would be proud. For everything, there is a season. And a time for every matter under heaven. You're welcome. Be born. There is some part of that verse got exited out. There is a time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up with what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. It's funny. People probably just took that metaphorically. No. Solomon's saying there's a time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down. Heal. And a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh.
Shut up!
A time to mourn. You're the one laughing and crying so much.
Stop!
A time to mourn.
Emotional damage.
A time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to scroll. A time to tear and a time to sue. So, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time to hate. Isn't that interesting? A time a time for war and a time for peace. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Oh, questions. Hey, we made it. Question 1. Have you ever found it strange how during time periods, such as after 9/11 attacks in New York, that even some of the most arduous peacemongers will jump on the war bandwagon, yet when it comes to defeating evil in their own nations, like with the Epstein affair, will be the first to shut down all talk of retribution on the wicked? COVID-19 also comes to mind. The whole COVID years, right? 9/11 comes around. Suddenly, World War II also counts for this as well. But you remember in 9/11, you would have all these people who, in Christian denominations, who would have been like, no, we never go to war for anything. 9/11 comes, it's like, bomb all the babies. Kill them for all those New Yorkers that I hated 5 minutes ago. I mean, not to be that guy. Maybe it's a bit crass, but isn't it funny that a bunch of people in New York die, and then for some reason a ton of Southerners have to go fight and die in the Middle East? I'm pointing that out. Southern people, why did you do that? You hate New York almost more than the people who blew it up, and you went off to go avenge them? What are you doing? They're the ones who sent Sherman after you, man. They raped and pillaged your women and children. They encouraged the blacks to go kill everybody. They burned everything down. Then actively destroyed your nation. Why did you go out in droves to go revenge them? Maybe they should go avenge themselves for a while. Have you thought of that? And you say, well, what do you mean? So, yeah, shut up. The majority of the army, especially back then, were Southern Southern guys. Like, this is a tradition. The South sends a lot of their boys to go fight and die. It's a thing, okay? I don't make the rules. I'm not saying no one from New York went off and died, but you get the point, right? What are you doing? And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying 9/11 wasn't a bad thing, but right? What are you doing avenging the death of citizens of an empire that actively tried to destroy everything you are and what you love? Why? Stop it. Stop it. The other time, of course, was World War II. Comes to mind, right? Our denomination, the Assemblies of God, was originally pacifists. They originally were pacifists.
That's why they're so passive, babe. Look at our
But yeah, they were originally pacifists. Then World War II and I comes around, and they're like, "Oh wait, there are wars that we should fight in." Like, what do you mean? Why is it different now? There's certain massacre of this. You didn't do anything during the Armenians, but Germany, there's a white enemy to fight. We can fight them. Oh no, don't kill all those brown people. Ignore the fact that torturing and murdering Christians in Turkey. Don't look at that part. Oh, hey, let's ally ourselves with the active atheist empire run by Satanists and Jewish people snorting cocaine all day long. No, you think I'm being exaggeratory? No, like the secret police in the Soviet Union had a large portion of them were Jewish, and they were high on crack.
Yeah, I think it's Zelensky. He literally had a credit card and some of those white powder stuff right on his desk.
Right.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Right, but I'm not actually exaggerating. They were literal jackboot Jews high on crack cocaine, murdering a bunch of peasants.
Yeah, like a little curly thing.
Yeah, right. And we have to ally with those people.
Is that where that came from? Crazy, because they were fixing their curls.
Sure, wife. That's what it was. Right. We have to ally with those people to. It's like one of those things. Right. Our denomination thought, for World War I, World War II, we have to not be pacifists anymore. It's just necessary to kill the white people because they sound German. Sorry. And nowadays it's we have to kill the white people because they sound Russian. No, it's because they're Christian. Okay, it's not hard. World War I, World War II is best looked at as a civil war between Christians run by a bunch of different cultic groups on either side. Disgusting. Idiots. Morons. People call them the greatest generation. I call them the idiot generation. What was it? It was like I had a great word for them, and then it left me. It was like the imbecile generation or the dumbest. Maybe it's just that. The dumbest generation. The retarded generation. Dumb mother truckers, okay? They had every stomach within them to fight. And yet they fell for everything. Every little lie they fell for, hook, line, and sinker. For crying out loud, Churchill bombed Germany before Germany bombed Britain. Germany was giving like a stay, like, hey, we don't want to fight anymore. Let's not fight. So Churchill sends a bombing run attacking German civilians, purposely attacking German civilians. Doesn't tell the British public. And then when the Germans attack in Klein...
He thinks he really hated Germans.
Yeah, he did. When the Germans attacked in Klein, he pretended that the Germans did it without provocation. And nobody called him out on this. Not a single British guy who were part of that raid went, guys, we bombed them first. What no one brought this up. No one fought back. No one stopped that. You just they had the balls to charge up freaking cliffs with Germans, high crack troops on the ledge of this thing. Like the Call of Duty 2 showed this. One of the craziest things ever. One of the first operations of the Rangers during World War II. In the Normandy invasions, right? There was a beach. This was a cliff. They went up a fucking 30 to 40 foot cliff with ropes while they're being shot at with machine guns and grenades being thrown at them. And they took the damn cliff. Right? Those guys had the balls to do that. Yes, Rosie, come. But they didn't have the balls to go to their governments
Get up there.
and slap their governments around and tell them to, just, right. They didn't have the balls to deal with the corruption in their own governments because they were dumb, easily manipulated and tricked.
Their balls for their...
No, they had balls. They sold their brains. Worse, it would have been better if they'd sold their balls because then they wouldn't have been used as battering rams against each other. Right? Oh, hey. That was not meant to be a sexual tension joke, but it became one. That is awkward. Thank you. This is what happens when you marry a Slav. They see this sort of stuff and everything. I'm going to move on to the next question. Right? And again, it comes, and I bring up the Epstein affair, right? What should have been our reaction when everything just goes bye-bye and no one goes to jail for active rape and murder of children in our ranks? I think we all know what should have happened. I don't even need to say it because I might get kicked off YouTube.
You're
right?
probably already.
Yeah. Right? I might kick, and don't do it now because you won't be helped because that's how little our balls are there.
They shriveled.
So obnoxious. Next question. Anyway, I was just pointing out the irony that the most peace-mongering will be the most war-mongering at a flip of a hat. Thanks. Yeah. Can you think of another tribe, nation, ideology, or religion that couldn't be reasoned with and only acted toward the destruction of Christianity and the kingdom of heaven? I'm being pushed off my chair. How about the opposite? Maybe even some who shouldn't have been reasoned with, who should have been reasoned with, missionaries instead of crusaded against in history. So that's an interesting one. The first one that comes to mind. Can I help?
She's a good girl.
She is a good girl. She's a wonderful puppy.
Now say hi to Skydo.
Yes. Mongols come to mind. Probably. Though it was mostly a defensive thing. But for the other one that got... she found the donuts. Run. So distracting.
At least they're not white powdered.
India. Indians are hardcore. 100%. A lot of people kind of look at me cross, but I'm sorry. It's the truth. There's this classic line. And do I think that Britain necessarily should have done empire in this case? No, for their own sakes, they shouldn't have done empire. But if we're going for stakes of Christianity and all that, then the only thing that would have worked on the Indians back in the day would have been a conquering. They just won't change any other way. Just saying. Not saying you should do it. Not saying I should do it. Not saying anyone should do it. Whenever. Just pointed it out. They're not going to change on their own. There's this classic line from an Indian officer, right, who was in.
I think I've been short.
No, he's British. It would have been. I say, I've been shot. Very not perturbed by it as he dies, but a British officer who was enforcing a new law which said you couldn't burn widows after the man died. Like they would burn the widow, and he was basically enforcing the rule that you couldn't do that because the British had umbrage with this little tradition, and the elders were all up in arms and came to him and went, it's our traditions that you're screwing with. And he responded with, I see you have your traditions and I respect that. However, you see, I come from a country where if you burn a widow at the stake, we hang you by the neck. And so you will respect my traditions in this as well. I'm paraphrasing. But yes, that should be your response to moral relativism. Okay, you have your traditions. Well, I have my traditions, motherfucker. Yes, and that was very much a good thing. You see, India can freak out and get mad all they want, but they were way better after the British's imperialism. They like stepped in bounds, improved. It's kind of hilarious. Yeah. All right. Question 3. What season do you feel your people are in? Is this season changing, or do you feel it will remain the same for a time? It's changing.
Depends if you're
Definitely a
right.
season of war, but they're not ready for it. Crazy stuff. But I will leave you with that question. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We did an hour and 25 minutes. It was a good time. Oh, by the way, as you might have noticed, I got it to work on Archaven. There was some weirdness. I might have been really tired last night when I was putting things up. I was trying to, because the images on Archaven have to be PNGs. So I was transforming my JPEG into a PNG, and I clicked the wrong button, and I turned it into a GIF. And I think I screwed everything up. But I took care of that, and it seems to have fixed the problem. I hope. It's up. You can read it. We're reading it now. Here's hoping.
Also, we did the first episode of
Grizzly
Files.
Yeah, we put the first episode of Grizzly Files up.
Seen that,
I need to put the links and stuff.
But
if you just go to the YouTube channel, it'll be the first video that's up. It takes a good 10 minutes for us to get going. It was our first podcast. You know, we were also, I believe a cat bites my balls in it. It's kind of funny. Or I think
Why do you make me laugh?
No, like, he bit my leg, and and it was close to my balls. And I said he bit my balls, and then you called me out for the fact that he actually bit my leg. And she called me out for me I was trying to make things more humorous in the podcast. And she called me out during the podcast. It was so rude.
I thought you call it your little leg.
The funny thing is that cat has bitten me there before. She's keeping me honest. That's what's important. It's good to get you guys to laugh, but I should do it honestly. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Accountability.
I could just tickle your feet. What? That was a great analogy in the beginning of the game. I was very much to blame. Good times.
And also, what were we gonna do? Was it
Stop
Thursday?
sharing.
Was it Thursday? Wednesday?
Well, we'll film it then.
Film it.
Yeah, I still have some
Star
video.
Citizen thing.
Yeah, some video game content planned. I had wife watch part of the new Squadron 42 trailer thing.
It's damn.
She's interested now, so we're gonna watch the whole thing. I'll give you responses. If you don't know what Star Citizen is, I'm gonna make this video. You can watch it, and I'll explain stuff from a guy who's been backing it for a while. It'll be a good time. It's good stuff. It'll be fun. It's very flashy, very bang bang, very boom boom, very explosions. It's good stuff. And then you get to hear my wife make fun of me the whole time for being a nerd. She likes it. She married me.
How many wives out there are willing to play Foxhole just to be your worker?
You liked it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, she likes making buildings. It's her thing. When we were dating, we played 7 Days to Die, and then hilariously,
then a storm hit my house,
and she had a power outage. If you don't know, 7 Days to Die is Minecraft with zombies, and
that was a scary night.
Hilariously, like we were all playing together. I don't think we were on the same server, but we were all playing. And and you guys were doing your thing, and we were talking.
I had a friend over.
And she was in Thailand. I was in Missouri. The power goes out of their place, and it was
thunder and raining, and there was a big storm. Power goes out. My computer shuts out out of nowhere. But in the middle of an intense moment too.
Generally, computers turn.
Well, I know, but
power outage.
Well,
you had a battery.
I had my laptop.
You were a laptop,
right? So I could still kind of play, but then the internet goes out. So my computer.
But we were still calling. That was funny.
But we were still talking because I was on my phone.
Right. You see, I didn't even have to be there to scare them. They just scared themselves. It was just hilarious to listen to. They were all freaking out. Yes. Good times. Anyway, yeah. So I'm thinking we will keep putting the creepy videos up.
Mangoes falling onto a roof. It's scary sometimes.
The creepy podcast we'll put up every Saturday. We'll keep this the written stuff up Sunday, and then we'll keep doing these streams on Monday. Wednesday, I'm leaning towards making that like a video game long form content, maybe a stream. I don't know. We might have fun.
I know on Wednesdays, if I do join that Bible study thing.
Oh, right.
I could do that in wherever.
Nah, that would be more fun if you were there. We'll at least film it or something, and then, I can post it whenever we can film it on the day off. If that makes sense. Anyway, we'll probably do some video game content. I'm going to introduce you guys to random games I bet you haven't heard of. Foxhole, I've brought it up before. I think you'll like it. Star Citizen, because, the Star Citizen gets a lot of hate, and there's a weird thing about it. It's very strange. Excessive hatred is the right word. It's what happens, though.
What's good and beautiful.
Well, that, and there was this whole Gamma rivalry that kind of popped up. Like, there was Gammas on both crews. Like, have you guys heard of a game of Elite Dangerous? Like, that rivalry between Xbox and Sony, right? It's like that. There were two space games that both started at the same time. There was Elite Dangerous, there was Star Citizen. And the Elite Dangerous got a really intense elitism vibe because they had a game long before Star Citizen had a game.
Even have that game on my Steam account.
No, it was good back in the day. It was fun, right? And just a lot of drama from that. And from that, you get how Gamma is, right? When he feels snubbed, he will hate you for the rest of his life. Well, they felt snubbed about Star Citizen. So there's this whole cadre of Gammas who hate Star Citizen just for that. And then there's a whole cadre of like YouTubers and whatnot that feed off of that.
Of course, because they like drama.
Well, and they can get easy views by hating on it. So, right. And then the video game media, if you will, always hated it because Chris Roberts bypassed all the big companies and everything. Though they were paying attention to it. Like, unfortunately, though, I like Star Citizen. It did kind of start the service game mentality because that was what they were doing for like 10 years. Keep making the same game and putting stuff in that you buy. In this case, it wasn't cosmetics, it was spaceships. So that's unfortunate. They did kind of start that trend, but they,
I still forget how old that is.
But as games like Helldivers 2 show, you can actually make it work in the right situation.
The game that your sons enjoy watching.
Oh, yes. It's hilarious. Every time I try to work, like my kids come up to the screen.
You just walk into the front door. They're already at your computer waiting for you.
Sometimes, yeah. Not every time. But yeah, and he'll point.
Bugs!
Shoot the bugs, Dad! They want to watch me shoot bugs.
I'm scared. It's a big bug. Kill it!
That was funny. He was scared of the bots for a while, but we've trained him. He's not scared of it. He literally says AI. He's like, Dad, no, it's AI.
It's true.
It's so funny.
I didn't teach him AI.
No, he's just like, oh no, AI. Dad, no. That's the best. I should stream that sometime. Mm-hmm. I won't record their faces, but I might record their voices just so you guys hear how funny it is. But I'll be in there and I'll be trying to work and they'll be pointing at the icon and like, Buck! Because they want me to play it and shoot bugs for them.
If you played the wrong game, oh no. It's a screen fest in here.
No, I mean, and they even like that game because Foxhole has all these pretty little tanks. Then my son will come up to the screen.
He'll come up and draw what you're doing. He used to draw maps from it. Then he went from drawing the actual mechanics of it.
The tanks.
Remember, he would do the tanks and the battles. He would do that. Then he went and drew the actual tanks themselves, the transporter vehicle and all that.
But yeah, it's hilarious. He's really into cranes right now too. So it's like there's cranes in that game. He just goes all happy when he sees them. He's like, "Ooh, look, crane! It's my his thing. He's like, it's my crane. It's my boat.
It's my tank.
It's like it's my boat, my tank.
It's mine.
It's so all mine." He'll just like do it over and over again, and he'll keep doing it if I don't respond too. So it's like, it's my dad. Yeah. It's okay. I know it's yours.
That's mine.
It's okay. And then he gets quiet. He needs me to acknowledge it's his. Oh man. Yeah, so that'll be fun. I also need to get back into writing. I don't know if any of you guys were reading my novels before stuff happens. I went from writing 4 at the same time to writing 1 to moving to life stressing me out and not doing any of them. And I need to get back into that. I don't know when. Soonish. God, so many things I need to, and I need to get back into making video game development since I messed up and didn't finish up in time for my game jam. That's okay. It'll be fun. I need to tone down my idea for my first video game because I was basically going to create medieval high fantasy Helldivers 2. And instead of a spaceship, you were in a castle. I got the castle flying kind of the basis for it, a foundation. I was kind of making some spells that would work.
But they weren't just going from the guy.
And I think, yeah, I hadn't connected it to the dude yet or to the castle. Like, I was trying to make it look like the castle was shooting it. It wasn't quite working yet. I need time to figure that out. I think I need to smaller game first, then maybe that game. If you know what I mean. Baby steps. Also, because I'm such a solo person, I'm going to have to teach most of this myself before I think I can get anyone to join up. So many things. What I kind of want to do now, I don't know if you guys have ever played Advance Wars, right? I kind of want to make a Monster Hunter Advance Wars. So like it's Advance Wars kind of play style, but instead of tanks and infantry, you have like Monster Hunter characters with some RPG elements fighting werewolves and stuff. And the best part is, one of my novels is exactly that. So I'm like, ooh, prequel to my novel in video game form. How about that? That sounds like fun. I have no idea if I have enough skills to pull it off or if it would take too long and I need to tone it back even more. But I think it could work. Which reminds me, I don't know. Oh, guys, if you have any interest maybe in doing video game stuff, making your own games, you really need to, before the end of the year, get Unreal Engine 5. All right, you can get it completely for free. You don't have to pay anything to them unless you make a video game that makes more than $1 million. I mean, at that point, right, have 5%, who cares? But right now, they're offering up a ton of free assets, like 18,000 free assets that have been like photo scanned in. So, like they use a camera and take it from a bunch of different angles and they make it into a 3D object in game, right? There's like 18,000 free versions of those that you can get on your account, but they will no longer be free after the end of the year. I'm telling you this as I remind myself I need to do this. So, just so you know, PSA, if you were like kicking around that you might want to try making video games someday, get that. You'll have a ton of free assets for whenever you want to try it out. They're really high. There are a bunch of rocks, trees, foliage, lots of good stuff. Buildings. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Whew. We should probably. All right, we're going to close up shop now. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, folks. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the tangents and the stream and the lesson. I hope you found something interesting. Next lesson will be on Gideon. Yes, it should be Gideon. The next lesson. It won't be the part of Gideon you're thinking of, though. Not the part that you. Where there's a whole section of Gideon that nobody reads that we're going to be talking about. And yeah, like, subscribe, share. See you guys next Monday. Keep your eyes open for the Saturday podcast and video game content as we go. Thanks, Bale. Bye. All right. Bye. Bye. I gotta go to work tomorrow again, so I need to get off of here. You think if I stay here long enough, my wife will run from the room doing the pee-pee dance? I'm not your sister. Anyway, I don't know why I'm being weird. You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys later. How stubborn I can get. You are really stubborn. Now we're just leaving on this really awkward note where we're stubbornly talking about pee. Iron bladder. Well, let's check that, shall we? Don't you dare! I'm seeing eyes. She's going to kill me.